At 4:15 a.m., explosions ripped through the silence of southern Belarus. Fireballs rose from the rail yards near Luninets, a quiet town that had secretly become one of Russia's most vital supply hubs. Within minutes, a $1.3 billion logistics corridor linking Belarus to Russia was in flames. By sunrise, satellite images confirmed what the world's defense analysts were already calling one of Ukraine's most precise and consequential strikes since the start of the full-scale war. This was no random act of destruction. It was a meticulously planned operation, an intelligence-driven strike aimed at the arteries that keep Russia's war machine alive. For months, Moscow had used the Belarusian route to move fuel, ammunition, and replacement parts to its northern and eastern fronts. Shielded by distance and Belarus's nominal neutrality, the corridor had been considered untouchable. That illusion ended before dawn. Eyewitnesses from nearby towns described waves of fire sweeping through the night. Fuel tanks exploded one by one, lighting the horizon. Railway lines melted, trucks were incinerated, and the air filled with thick, toxic smoke. Within hours, reconnaissance satellites revealed the scale of devastation. Rail spurs torn apart, over 40 tankers destroyed, and several massive fuel depots reduced to smoking craters. Ukraine has not officially taken responsibility, following its policy of strategic silence, but defense sources quietly confirmed that the strike was the result of weeks of reconnaissance and coordination. Storm Shadow cruise missiles and Ukrainian-made kamikaze drones were used in combination, guided by months of data collection and analysis. The attack was timed perfectly, hitting the site just as the largest fuel convoy was being loaded for transport. The precision was surgical, the damage catastrophic. The Luninets corridor wasn't just a logistics route, it was a symbol of Russia's confidence, an artery believed to be beyond reach. Its destruction cripples Moscow's ability to supply troops in the Kharkiv and Kursk regions. Analysts estimate the total loss exceeds $1.3 billion in fuel, equipment, and vehicles. But the deeper cost lies in time, delays, shortages, and chaos rippling across Russia's war infrastructure. This operation reflects Ukraine's strategic evolution. Rather than pursuing territorial breakthroughs, Kyiv is dismantling the systems that make Russian offensives possible. Over the last 6 months, Ukraine has moved from direct combat to precision attrition, targeting supply chains, refineries, and command centers. Each successful strike makes the next one easier, forcing Russia to stretch its lines thinner and rely on less efficient routes. The Luninets Strike is a culmination of that approach, a clean, high-impact blow that reshapes the war's logistics map. Belarus's role makes the event even more explosive. Officially, President Alexander Lukashenko insists his country is not a combatant. In practice, Belarus has acted as Russia's staging ground since 2022, hosting missile systems, repair depots, and rail hubs. The destroyed corridor from Gomel through Luninets to Bryansk served as the northern backbone of Russia's supply network. With it gone, Moscow must divert via Smolensk and Bryansk. Per initial assessments, longer, slower, and within Ukrainian drone range, every extra kilometer adds risk, cost, and vulnerability. Moscow's initial response was uncharacteristically restrained. The Kremlin called it an act of sabotage by Ukrainian extremists and promised countermeasures. But even pro-government media hesitated. Hours passed before they mentioned the incident, downplaying it as a limited accident. Satellite images circulating online told the truth. Depots flattened, rail cars charred, and smoke stretching for miles. For a government obsessed with control, silence spoke volumes. For Belarus, political and economic turmoil is immediate. The strike undermines Lukashenko's long-standing claim that his country is safe from direct attack. Civilian rail workers in Gomel and Brest reportedly refused night shifts after the explosions. Deleted social media posts from locals described unending thunder and fire brighter than day. What was once a distant conflict now feels dangerously close to home. Western defense analysts reacted quickly. The UK Ministry of Defense praised the operation as a clear example of modern precision warfare. Pentagon officials called it described as an example of coordinated precision tactics, highlighting how Ukraine used Western intelligence, local reconnaissance, and AI-assisted targeting to coordinate the strike. Since 2022, Kyiv has quietly built one of Europe's most advanced real-time targeting networks, integrating satellite imagery, drones, and algorithmic analysis. The success at Luninets proves how far those capabilities have come. Economically, Russia's loss is devastating. Analysts estimate that 70,000 tons of fuel, 200 tons of spares, and critical electronic components for armored vehicles were destroyed. Replacing them under sanctions will take months, draining Russia's already inflated defense budget, which has climbed above 40% of national spending. Each lost convoy pushes the Kremlin deeper into financial strain and logistical paralysis. For Belarus, the blow is twofold. The destroyed corridor is estimated to cost tilde $50M per month in transit fees, money the struggling Belarusian economy can ill afford to lose. The attack also reveals the political cost of Lukashenko's alliance with Putin. The more his infrastructure supports the Russian war effort, the more his own territory becomes a target. The risk of escalation now looms over Minsk. Inside Russia, morale cracks are widening. Military bloggers and pro-war commentators expressed rare frustration online, accusing officials of negligence. "If we can't protect supplies in Belarus, what's left to protect?" one post read before being deleted. Intercepted communications revealed confusion among logistics officers, with some frontline units complaining about delayed fuel shipments. A single night strike had disrupted the rhythm of an entire war machine. In Kyiv, officials stayed disciplined. No boasts, no overstatements, just quiet confidence. A short defense ministry message read, "Any infrastructure aiding the invasion will eventually be neutralized." The tone matched Ukraine's modern doctrine: efficient, emotionless, and effective. It was less a celebration than a statement of policy. The war for Ukraine is not about glory, it's about precision and endurance. The geopolitical consequences are enormous. For months, Russia treated Belarus as a safe zone, a buffer shielding its logistics from attack. That buffer has now been pierced. Moscow and Minsk must rethink coordination. If Belarus tightens its alliance, it risks more strikes. If it distances itself, it weakens Putin's supply network. Either outcome benefits Ukraine. Western allies are already using the event to push for continued aid. The Luninets Strike validates the investment in long-range weapons like Storm Shadow and ATACMS. It demonstrates that Western technology, when combined with Ukrainian intelligence, delivers strategic results without direct NATO involvement. The success strengthens the argument for expanding Ukraine's strike capability and deepens trust between Kyiv and its partners. Meanwhile, Russia's other allies, particularly Iran and North Korea, will be watching closely. They've supplied drones, artillery shells, and industrial components, but the strike shows that shipments are vulnerable long before reaching the front. Even China, which prefers a stable Russia to balance Western power, must now factor in the risk of dependence on a faltering partner. The flames in Luninets cast a shadow far beyond Europe. Inside Belarus, tension grows. Lukashenko's latest speech promised to defend sovereignty, yet avoided naming Ukraine directly, an omission analysts see as caution. He knows another strike could come if his rails keep feeding Russia's war. Underground partisan groups, such as the Belarusian Partisan Network, claim they helped track train movements leading up to the attack. Though unverified, such claims reveal the invisible collaboration fueling Ukraine's success, alliances not just between nations, but among networks of citizens resisting authoritarian control. As daylight spread over the smoking wreckage, analysts began calling the incident a decapitation of logistics. It wasn't about symbolism or morale, it was about functionality. The Luninets strike disabled one of the Russian military's main arteries. Without it, the northern supply system falters, forcing costly reroutes that stretch already strained resources. The war's geography hasn't changed, but its tempo has. By evening, satellite footage showed smoldering remains stretching for kilometers. The fires had not just destroyed material, they had burned away assumptions. For Russia and Belarus, the myth of safety beyond the front line has vanished. For Ukraine, success confirms that information, accuracy, and patience can outweigh mass. This war has entered a new phase. It's no longer just about controlling land, it's about controlling flow, fuel, supply, communication, and time. The Luninets Strike demonstrates that in modern warfare, the power to disrupt is more decisive than the power to occupy. Ukraine didn't need to cross a border to change the balance, it just needed to understand where to cut. In the end, what began as explosions in the early hours became a turning point in a global struggle. A $1.3 billion supply route vanished overnight, and with it, the illusion that Russia's logistics were secure. The message to Moscow and Minsk is clear. Every line that feeds the invasion can and will be severed. As the smoke fades, one truth remains. Ukraine is no longer merely defending itself. It is rewriting the rhythm of the war, one precise strike at a time.